I believe in protecting this country. I believe in America. It was the most eerie place I've ever been in my life. You could feel death all around you. So I said, man, that could have been me. That we would honor our country and we would actually sacrifice our life if it come down to that. But Mom was a sweet gal that stayed at home and fed me all the time. So my dad had a lot of influence over me when I was young. He's the one that told me when I got out of school, he come in there one day and he says, "Look, boy," he says, "you're either going to get a job or you're going in the service." And that's the way it was back then. You know, parents didn't want a kid hanging around. Right. They wanted them out working. I was one of them guys that if you didn't join, you got drafted. It was kind of one of those things. I had a good friend that was my best friend from 3rd grade all the way up through high school. Mm-hmm. And his whole family were all Navy and all my family was Army. So I said, let's do something different. Let's go in the Air Force. I was actually 19. He was 18. I was older than he was. My birthday was earlier than a year than his was. So we both graduated at the same time. We graduated in 1962. Him and I both signed up for the Canine Corps, and I was a drug handler then. They sent me up to get my dog. I had to break the dog in. These dogs were killer dogs.
Were you scared?
I was at first. Once I got to realize that you was in charge of the dog, you know, then I wasn't too afraid of them. But going up there, yeah, I was, because I heard stories of guys getting bit by their own dog or bit by another. So I was kind of shaky about it. And but once I got up there, I saw the dog. I got to meet him and everything. And every day I take him food. And it was just me getting acquainted with the dog and the dog getting acquainted with me. And then I had to train a dog. And boy, some of the stuff we put them dogs through, it was not nice stuff that we did to them. But they had to be to a point that they would kill. They had to be a point that they would kill somebody. If you were out on post and somebody was trying to infiltrate your post, that dog was supposed to kill them.
What did you make the dogs do?
There's stuff that I wouldn't want to tell you about, because it was really rude. It was really cruel. We really used them cruelly, and but that's what we had to do to break them down, to make them mean. Mm-hmm. We had to do that to make them mean, because they were just like any other dog. They're just friendly as can be. Mm-hmm. But once we had to start training them, then we had to get that puppy deal out. And any time that you had a dog you had to keep a muzzle on him so he wouldn't bite somebody. And we'd agitate them, just smack them, beat on them, pull on them, grab their hair, just anything to get them agitated, get them mean. And I finally got mine down to where I could use him with a choke chain. And that's what we used on them, was choke chains. And when we came back to Simbach, they put me on post, with him. And I got to teaching him how to use hand signals. I'd give him hand signals, down, up, heel. I'd slap the side of my coveralls. I'd say heel, and he'd come right up by my leg and he'd sit down. And if I made a step, he made a step. If I stopped, he stopped. Never got ahead of me, never got behind me. He was always there right by my side. And the reason he was on the left side was because I had a gun on him. I had this dog, and I had him trained where I could use him with muzzle, without a muzzle. We used to go to dog shows up in Frankfurt and up in Berlin, and they'd have kids there, and we'd put on a show for them, because these dogs would climb up ladders and they'd walk across ladders and they'd slide down slides and walk up slides. It was really, I had mine, you could put a 2x4 out there or a 4x4 out there, and he'd walk down that 4x4 and never fall there. And in my flight there was, we had 3 missile sites out there, and we had 2 guards. So there was 6 of us. There was 6 of us in a flight out there. And we were always always there together. When we went out on post, we all went out together. So we knew them guys. We always trained with them. Every time we'd have a dog show, or every night we'd get out there, and Sergeant would come up there with a big sleeve on his arm, and he'd agitate them dogs. And he'd have them barking and a biting and a chewing, and every once in a while we had to get in a suit. And that suit was about that thick. And you had the pants and the jacket, and the jacket went down over your pants. The only places that was open was your armpit and between your legs. And these dogs was trained to go for, if you let them loose and told them to attack, they went for 2 places on a man or a human. They either went for their neck or they went for their groin. So you had to really be careful that when they'd come, you'd stick your arms down like this here or like that there, so they'd hit your arm. But you didn't want to get it you in the face either, because we had the helmets on, but your face was still exposed. And boy, there was some of them dogs that come running down that hill and they'd hit you, and it was almost like a fullback coming through a line. Man, I think they almost knocked you down. And there's a couple of guys that did actually get knocked down. And boy, I hated that, because every time you'd get in that suit, you had all them dogs coming at you. They'd do it one at a time, but they was always coming at you. But they would bite so hard that I'd have my arm up like that there, and I'd catch them as they come up, and I'd shove that arm in their mouth, and they'd bite so hard on that sleeve that they actually bruised my arm. Now that's how much pressure they've got, that they could bite through that much padding. And one night out on post, my dog got excited. A rabbit jumped up on him, and I pulled him out of it, and he got mad. He got a tree. He reached around and got a tree and actually pulled that tree up out of the ground. Now that's how much strength they've got in their mouth. I mean, they can break a bone, You give them a bone to eat, they can crunch that bone up just like nothing. So